Hi guys, in this episode of Plummy Zone, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts to the third episode of the 8th and final season of one of my favorite shows ever, Fear the Walking Dead. And boy, do I have some things to say about this episode, although definitely not as much as last one. The main thing that I guess I want to mention right off the bat is this season really seems to be kind of all over the place and constantly switching between good and just boring all the time. Because, like, we had the first episode, which was kind of shockingly uninteresting compared to how exciting and fun the premieres of the previous two seasons have been. I just didn't really have much to enjoy about the first episode. It just felt very bland. Like, the most exciting part of episode 1 for me was me looking out to see whether a certain character is going to appear. A character that I can't mention by name because it's a spoiler. And they didn't appear. That was the most exciting part of episode 1. Then episode 2 came around and it was a really fun, really enjoyable, really well, I wouldn't say really well, but like decently well written episode with some really good emotion, some good execution, some good visuals. Like, it was a good episode. And then comes this episode, which it's kind of in between the two, but it's closer to episode 1 in terms of my enjoyment and in terms of my feelings for it, because it just felt kind of boring and I couldn't really keep my attention going. Like, I constantly found myself just pausing the episode and like maybe browsing Reddit for like 2 minutes or something like that. Like, you get what I mean? Like, I just couldn't really focus on watching the episode. I had to just stop every like couple of minutes. And I had the same thing with episode 1. I didn't really have much of that with episode 2 though, so there's that. But yeah, and there isn't even really much to talk about in regards to this episode. There's things that I want to talk about, that I will talk about, but by and large, I just don't really feel like I feel much about the events of this episode. Like, I could mention that it was really entertaining that we got a meeting between Madison and Daniel, and that I really liked the line that that Daniel says, which is, "It looks like we all have 9 lives," which is basically kind of poking fun at the fact that all of these characters have met before and all seem to be alive after all these years. That's a fun tongue-in-cheek joke. But by and large, for the episode as a whole, I feel like it's kind of a letdown compared to what I thought it was going to be, compared to where I think it should have gone. It just felt like a little bit of a letdown. Like, it doesn't feel like it has the impact it should have. Especially considering we have this giant flashback in this episode, kind of going back to the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. And by the way, there is something in particular about that I want to talk about that is a little frustrating and that is really annoying. And that I wish AMC would fucking clarify by creating like an actual timeline guide about when certain events in the universe of The Walking Dead happen, because it just doesn't make any sense. But how is 12 years ago, from the point of where the season is right now of Fear the Walking Dead, still in the zombie apocalypse? Like, did I fucking miss something? This shouldn't be 12 years ago. They did the same with the Negan episode. In the main show's, not final season, but the 10th season, like the additional episode where they did a backstory on Negan. They did a flashback that was 12 years ago, but according to the timeline that we had of the show, it wasn't 12 years ago. Like, the zombie apocalypse shouldn't have... It should have been a couple of years before the zombie apocalypse happened if you jumped back in time 12 years. Because at the point of the a time at which Here's Negan episode happened, it should have been 11 years into the zombie apocalypse, not 12 and a couple of months, because they flash back 12 years and it's already a couple of months into the zombie apocalypse, which doesn't make any sense, because then they afterwards have to jump back even like further with like 6 months or something to get back out of the zombie apocalypse. And it's the same here with Fear the Walking Dead. According to the timeline, until last season, it was around the time when Rick got taken on the main show. That's the fan assumption, in a way. Calculating how much time seemingly passes in universe, how much time the showrunners have said it has passed. It should be about when Rick gets taken on the main show, which is about 4 years, more or less. So, if you add the 7-year time jump, that's 11 years. And yet, when they give us a flashback in this episode of 12 years, it's already a couple of months in the zombie apocalypse. Not too many, because it's clear that the military guys' kids are still not really, have not accustomed to the zombie apocalypse, but the way they mention it, the way they talk about the zombie apocalypse and how they kind of harken back to Senator Vasquez from last season, that's honestly a nice connection that I really, really like that they brought up from last season. The way they talk about that, it can't be that much longer. Like, it's only a couple of months, but still 12 years just doesn't really make that much sense. That's why I wish AMC would just create Walking Dead timeline guide or something which tracks the timeline for events, because it just doesn't make any sense. And I can also even complain in regards to like something that happened in Tales of the Walking Dead with Alpha and her timeline being a little bit confusing and nonsensical. So I really wish they would do that, but they probably will never do that. But it's just like so frustrating because it doesn't make any sense. And it's not even what we are led to assume, you know? Like, just by watching the show, you would assume that not that much time has passed. Like, what the fuck are the writers smoking? Like, when have we been led to know that it's been 12 years and counting since the zombie apocalypse started? Like, I wasn't under the impression that we're 12 years. Like, because of how much they hammer in, it's been 7 years, it's been 7 years, it's been 7 years since the end of season 7. I am in my brain, it's like, oh, it's been 8 years of the zombie apocalypse, so this is about the point in time in which when Henry loses his head on the main show. But no, it should be further than that, because according to the timeline, it's about 10, 11 years, which puts it somewhere in season 10 of the main show right now. But yeah, that's a little frustrating, but I don't really want to waste too much time talking about this. I already ranted way too much about stupid stuff in the last episode review, so I don't want to do that again. My voice can't handle it, you know? I still have 2 more episode reviews to record anyway. So yeah, honestly, it was kind of nice getting this flashback in this episode, showing us how at least part of the military handled stuff in the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. It kind of made it feel a little bit like OG Fear. Like, it had a little bit of that vibe. It still had the shitty dialogue and like cringy emotional stuff that we have in the current iteration of Fear. But it still kind of gave a little bit of a vibe of OG Fear. And it also reminds me a lot of the Dead in the Water little web thing that Fear the Walking Dead did for the submarine backstory. It's honestly something that that is really good. I've reviewed it. You can find it on YouTube, stitched together. It's honestly a really fun watch. I wouldn't necessarily call it good, but for a webisode thing, it's honestly pretty fucking good. I wish Tales of the Walking Dead was more like that. That would have been fun, but whatever. So yeah, that reminded me of that quite a lot. And just watching that flashback just made me kind of finally understand the people who say that they want to see a Walking Dead universe spin-off focusing on the military and how they did stuff and handled stuff. I kind of get it, because that was kind of the most interesting part of the episode, like seeing the soldiers and everything. Which makes it even more frustrating. How the fuck do the soldiers lose to the zombies in this particular episode as well? Because, spoiler alert, the guy dies. The father of Shrek? I don't know her name. The main bad lady of Padre. Her father, we are led to believe that he is Padre, but I obviously saw the twist coming from a mile away. Um, um, and he ends up dying. Where the fuck did the other soldiers go? Who the fuck knows? Why was his son such a dipshit who... He acted like a 5-year-old. Honestly, that really fucking pissed me off and kind of soured me on the whole episode. How his son, after his father told him some cringy, sentimental shit like, you keep this binocular so you can see us whenever we go, or some other cringy shit. Which personally doesn't necessarily bother me, but the fact that the clearly like 18, 19-year-old son took that as it meant literally, and as if his father couldn't survive without that binoculars, as if he's a 5-year-old. Like, the way he fucking had that thought process just pissed me off, because he acted like a 5-year-old, okay? And I guess that would have worked if they actually had the actor be younger, and then later on when we are revealed the fact that he is Padre, actually, he's the leader of Padre, the son, and seeing him be this rough zombie survival badass who, after his father died, kind of toughened up, it would have worked better, because as it stands right now, he still feels as pathetic as he did all those years ago when his father died. But yeah, I really wish we got more with the military there. That would have been really cool to see, but whatever. That was definitely the most exciting part of the episode. Other than that, it was cool, I guess, to see Madison and Daniel kind of have an interaction, but it didn't really amount to much. We just get a couple of lines about Charlie and Luciana and what happened to them. We see Daniel be... honestly, kind of fun to see him in this military leader role. That was kind of entertaining to see, and him just strolling around with like a juice with a straw. That was honestly kind of badass. I really enjoyed that. It was kind of interesting, I guess, also to see one of the subordinate teenagers of Padre, which has been the most prominent female character from Padre, which makes me kind of think, which main character is that bitch gonna kill? Because that's the pattern with bad girls, teenage girls from the enemy group. Like, Charlie killed Nick, Dakota killed John, who is Odessa going to kill? Because that's also the name of the episode. I forgot to mention that. Which, I just want to say, it's fucking really... Like, why did they name the character that? I feel like maybe it's just me looking into things because of everything that is happening in Ukraine and everything, but it's like, I swear to God, there's been so many random references to Ukraine, more than I've ever thought I would see in my life, in shows that I've covered on the channel in one way or another. Like, Generator Rex, a really cool cartoon which has nothing to do with The Walking Dead, but just bear with me, had a reference to recent events in the real world, like, to an uncanny level. And now Fear the Walking Dead has a character named Odessa. Like, again, it's not really a big connection or anything, it's just kind of a weird connection that my brain is now able to make because of these events, you know? And it felt even weird when we were watching episode 16 of season 7. I believe even then they mentioned it, and that was already after the war had broken out, right? But yeah, the stuff with her were kind of interesting, but what kind of ruined that for me is her stupid fucking reaction. Because it was actually cool to see her be convinced to side with us and work with us to defeat Padre, which still seems like it might end up being the case in one of the next episodes. But it was just really stupid the way she reacted at the end there when it was revealed that she is the kid of the woman that died in the season finale of season 7. And she blamed Madison and not Padre for all this shit. Like, I don't understand why, especially because Madison was feeling regretful about that, and Padre lied to her, not Madison. You know, it's like Madison has blame there, but she's also trying to give her the truth, and yet she goes after Madison and not after Padre, and she continues still to side with Padre. Like, why? It just doesn't make any sense. And I know that she's a brainwashed teenager and everything, but it's just still fucking stupid. It just felt fucking stupid. Although, talking about the reveal about Padre and that scene there, I really love how dramatic and over the top that scene with Madison breaking the glass that is that Padre hides behind is. Like, I just love it. Part of me so fucking expected and wishes still that that certain character that I'm looking forward to appear this season, I really wish he actually was there. Because imagine the fucking shock, dude. That would be a perfect way to reveal that. I feel like the way they're gonna end up revealing it, they're just gonna walk up and be like, "What's up? You thought I was dead, right?" Or something along those lines, which would still be kind of badass. But I feel like they're gonna be very nonchalant about this, and I feel like it deserves this kind of grandiosity over reveal. But no, it was this little pathetic douchebag who got his father killed. But yeah, this episode is by and large honestly really kind of forgettable, to the point that I had to kind of quickly browse through it and re-watch it before doing this review, because I just couldn't remember much about it. That's how much it just didn't really amount to anything. I don't hate it, and I still think it had more stuff, more plot, more interesting stuff happening in it compared to episode 1, but it was also just more nonsensical compared to episode 1. So there's that as well. And yeah, because of that in general, I just don't really have as much to say about this episode. So we're just gonna jump into the notes right now and see if anything else kind of sparks any thoughts that I might have. But to be honest, there isn't really much to talk about, because that's my notes. I think that speaks once again to how much I actually enjoyed the episode. I just have barely a page of notes. Compared to episode 4's notes, which are honestly quite a lot. It's this, and this for episode 4. And I can't wait to review that one. But that's gonna be the next video. So yeah, let's see what I've written. First thing is hell of a flashback. And I already mentioned it. It's kind of cool seeing the early days of the zombie apocalypse. Makes me want to see another Walking Dead spin-off focusing on that period of time, because I really, really like that period of time, because it's weirdly entertaining, that period of time. But I don't know if we were ever really going to get that. Because I don't know, after all these spin-offs that are happening right now with the main cast of the main show, like, I don't know what spin-offs AMC would be willing to commit to at this point, you know? I feel like they're not really going to be willing to commit to a spin-off that is like The Walking Dead, but it's with its own characters, you know? I don't really think we're gonna get anything like that. Basically, like what Fear the Walking Dead started off, like its own thing. I don't think we're gonna get that kind of spin-off anymore. But yeah, next thing I've written is, AMC needs to give us a concrete timeline, because 12 years in Fear is pre-apocalypse times. I could barely read what I've written there, by the way. But yeah, I already mentioned this. The timeline is just really confusing. I wasn't under the impression that we were 13 years into the zombie apocalypse at this point, but what do I know? Next thing I've written is, it looks like we all have 9 lives. That's a good line. I already mentioned it, but I guess it bears repeating. Next thing I've written is, that's some season 6 dialogue. Padre is a hypocrite. I don't know if those things are connected, because the way that I've written them on the rows one after the other kind of make... Usually I write it like that whenever the thing that I'm talking about in a different sentence has something to do with the previous thing. So I think it does, but I don't know exactly what dialogue I was talking about in regards to that, and I can't really think of anything else in this episode that kind of made me think of like season 6 dialogue, Which, what I'm talking about that when I mentioned season 6 dialogue is specifically the self-aware, poking fun at criticisms that people have had for the Walking Dead universe. Like, go back to my reviews for season 6 of the main show where of Fear the Walking Dead, where you have me mentioning how characters poke fun at how the world goes to shit and now everybody is a philosopher, you know? That's, I believe, in episode 3 of season 6, Al pokes fun at that, or when Dwight makes a joke about how if they want to run away from Virginia, they can just mess up the faces of a bunch of walkers and make it seem to Virginia, to whatever the bad guy they were trying to run away from, that they're dead. That's a reference to what our guys, our main characters in the main show did in season 6 when they were fucking with the Saviors. They made they took a walker's head, made it look like Gregory's, and convinced them that it was Gregory, you know? It's a cool reference. Or some of the dialogue, once again in season 6, like whenever Morgan references how he doesn't die, or references how All Out War was a war that took way too long to end, which is a criticism that people have had for All Out War. Honestly, I really wish they kept those fucking writers from season 6, because that fucking self-awareness made season 6 so fucking entertaining, and it's because of that why that season is still one of my favorite seasons, honestly. Especially the specific line between Dwight and Morgan, where it basically breaks down all conflicts in the Walking Dead universe, which is that Dwight said, we all want our own lives under our own rules, so there's a fight, and somebody's gotta lose. I love that line so fucking much. That's basically the Walking Dead universe in a nutshell, and I love it. So yeah, I don't know if there was a particular dialogue in this episode that stood out like that. The closest thing that I can come up with is this, it looks like we all have 9 lives line. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the Padre is a hypocrite is probably because at that point in time I was still assuming that Padre was the father, not the brother. The brother died, so he was keeping his daughter close, but he wasn't. He was doing the complete opposite to the other children, taking them away from their parents, you know. And even the characters call Padre out on that, but it's kind of null and void when we find out that Padre is the brother, not the father. So there's that. Next thing I've written is, he's not Padre, it's a fake out. That's when I figured out that it was going to be a twist. And the next thing I've written is, the zombies are once again way too decayed for the time frame. They shouldn't be this decayed 12 years ago. And this is kind of a pet peeve, that similarly to the 12-year flashback thing, which is similarly, I had the similar kind of issue with the Here's Negan flashback episode in the main show. I also have an issue with the way they visualize the walkers those 12 years ago. Because in the main show, you know how the walkers look in the present, for lack of a better term. You know how decayed they look. Remember how the walkers looked in season 1. Not how they behaved, because the behavior is obviously different. But think about how the walkers looked in season 1, season 2, season 3. Hell, as far as season 4. They did not look that decayed at all. They looked largely still human-like, maybe just grayer skin, but there wasn't much like prosthetics on their faces and shit. Like, they didn't look gray. Like, they didn't look like how walkers look right now. But in that Here's Negan episode, the few walkers that we do get in that episode do look way too decayed. And in this episode as well, the walkers that end up eating the soldier, it looks like they've been dead for fucking years. It just doesn't make any sense. This simple fucking continuity would make this episode so much. Like, at the end of the day, it's a minor detail. It's not like it's gonna make this episode like a masterpiece or whatever, if it was correct, but it's those little things that kind of amount to the bigger thing that makes it really good. It's like you can't make a good food without doing all of the using all of the correct ingredients. If you can't make the walkers look how they are supposed to look, like, it's a simple thing that your brain doesn't necessarily even notice, but it's, I think it's the way people talk about CGI. It's like maybe you didn't notice it, but your brain did. It's the same kind of thing. Maybe I wouldn't notice it whether it was they looked how they should look or they don't, but my brain does. And seeing the walkers look how they used to look, not only would be kind of refreshing because we've had this general look for zombies for so long, but it would just feel like my brain will notice it and will feel more satisfied seeing these walkers from back then, you know? Yeah, it's stupid and it's annoying and it's a little detail, but it just bothers me. So yeah. This was definitely not as good of an episode as episode 2 was, and in general, even after having seen episode 4 and 5, it does seem like this season is kind of following a pattern of one bad episode, or at least less interesting episode, one good episode, one less interesting episode, one good episode, one less interesting episode. That's why I'm expecting the mid-season finale, episode 6, to be actually kind of exciting. Not only because the trailer seems pretty exciting, but so far, episodes 2 and 4 have been really, really good. And that's your teaser for the next episode review, where I'm going to be reviewing episode 4. But yeah, in terms of a rating for this one, I think I'm going to go with a solid, I don't know, I guess 8.2 out of 10. Honestly, I feel like that's maybe a little bit too strong, but I did enjoy some of the visuals and just the general refreshingness of seeing the early days of the zombie apocalypse once again. That was kind of cool and enjoyable. And in general, I feel like the pieces of this episode weren't necessarily bad. I just feel like a lot of it was just badly executed. So, yeah. Maybe it's a little bit too strong, but again, the way my rating system works for episodes and everything, it's mostly in relation to other episodes in the show, not overall in all of fiction or in the Walking Dead universe as a whole. It's specifically compared to other Fear the Walking Dead episodes. And I feel like it was just still decent. And considering I gave episode 1 7.8 out of 10, I can't really give this one anything less than an 8. So I think I'm going to stick with an 8.2 out of 10. Again, maybe a little bit too overblown, but I'll stick with that. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Well, quite a lot is, considering what I just said, is too much to say, but it has its moments. It has its things that I like about it, but it was also very frustrating and not quite as exciting as episode 2. But yeah, I am curious though, what do you guys think about this episode? So comment your thoughts down below, let's have a discussion about this. And also, before we end this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my currently 5 patrons on Patreon. Omar Bridgman, Deadpool, Corby Dead, Dane Harty, and Peyton Jones. Thank you guys for your support, I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. You have decided to support me, have continued to support me for such a long time. Hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give a like, subscribe. Also, check out the link in the description to my Wattpad, where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi account, where you can pledge your support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do any of that, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!